Welcome to another episode of the Empowerment Platform, where our mission is to empower you to reach your goals, whatever they may be. I got my main man, Corey, with me. Corey, how's it going tonight?
Oh man, we all good, man. And man, I tell you what, uh I'm gonna let y'all know how real Tyrus is, man. Like these conversations that we have on the back end, like it when you say like iron sharpens iron and you pour into each other, and that's the depth. So I gotta give a shout out to you, dog, because yeah, man, it's we talked about this before. We having a down week. Just felt like, and this is just to be transparent with y'all listening, because everybody's on like Facebook and Instagram, and they're like, "Oh man, everything's great," and I just made $7 million today. Um, sometimes you have down weeks and you're not feeling it and all that stuff, and I think that was one of these weeks. And it's just that when you have a solid bond, it just picks back up. You can lift each other out of that funk, or like out of that I guess rut that you're sitting in. And yeah, man, I'm blessed, dog. I'm blessed. I might just so happen to be working hard on the back end, but I'm blessed.
And man, it's great to have people in your circle, and that's the part of exposure and your network. And we always like to talk about your network equals your net worth or determines your net worth. And we look at that from a real financial lens most of the time. But, Corey, having good people that you can talk to, that you can reach out to, that you can say, hey, it's just not happening. What can I do? What can I shift? Because every time you approach me, it's always in a, hey, man, here are the ideas that I have. Let me know what you think about them so I can just bounce it off of you and make sure I'm on the right track. And you're not coming from me to me looking for me to solve your problem, but just make sure that, hey, what I'm saying makes sense. And while we have one another, because our back end conversations are always great, we both sharpening each other to get to a similar destination of where we want to be. So I definitely appreciate you for being in the click. It's small as
I
you get.
made the club, y'all.
Hey, when you go higher and higher, the club gets smaller and smaller because everybody's not on the same growth mindset pattern. But we got something good. And you brought this up, Corey. We have been talking about the stock market a little bit, looking at what GameStop is doing, what AMC is doing. And you gave a different approach. You said, okay, what are the life lessons? What are the principles that we can bring from what's going on in the stock market to individuals' lives? And so if you're listening and you don't know, of course, last week before has created a very, very heightened thing in the stock market. Some investors on Reddit got together and they were like, we're going to stick it to the man. We're going to stick it to the big industry, to the venture capitalists. We're going to tell everybody to buy one stock. And if you buy that stock, you can force them to have to buy back at a higher price and they're going to lose billions. And so, of course, big homies got upset with that. And they were like, what are y'all doing? Y'all freezing us out of billions of dollars. And, it really hit news, especially when Robinhood started to limit your ability to buy shares, and TD Ameritrade, and I think Webull had done it for a little while. And so there was really a lot of, okay, now that the regular man, the small man is learning and playing the game, the big man don't like it. And they're starting to make these rules. And there's a lot of other things that go on. I'm not that deep in it. And I honestly, it's not impacted my life that much. So I'm not all in it and heightened up on it, nor am I going to pour a whole lot of money into it. I'm gonna put some in there now. I ain't gonna sit here and lie to y'all. I'm gonna put a little bit in there on that AMC. I'm not a financial advisor. This is not to tell you to go buy it or put your money in it. But I believe that, and there have been people that won. I mean, I was looking at those stocks last year; they were like a couple of dollars, and now GameStop is like I think it almost 300 a share.
It's like 320 right now.
And so, if you bought when it was $2 and you bought significant amounts, you made a couple 100,000 or more. you know, that's always something that you can look at. And stock market, if that's a game that you want to learn to play, there are many resources out there. But Corey, start to or give me that when we discussed this, you brought up the life principles. So talk to me a little bit about what you saw from what was going on in the stock market and what made you think about, okay, how can I apply this to my life?
Yeah. So first and foremost, you kind of touched on it already, right? So you talked about how some investors on Reddit said, "Man, what if everybody just bought one stock?" And so when I started thinking about life, I was like, "Yo, it's really like the stock market, and also negatively impacted by life and the stock market, or you can look at it negatively." Um, but there's a lot to be able to learn from this. And so I had conversations with a few friends, my brother included, like yourself included, and we talked about, man, the AMC, the GameStop, the Dogecoin. Like, I think that's how you say it. Man, those are the hot items right now. And so I started thinking to myself, man, first and foremost, when you start off with Reddit, let's take out Reddit and what that name is. Let's insert community. And so the community said, if you just buy one item from this thing, we can make a whole bunch of money.
Hmm.
So like it's you know what I'm saying? Like listen to the principle behind that. So if we just get together and we just pour in to this entity right now, look how much better it'll be. And so then if you flip it, you're the entity. So then if you get around the right people and they pour back into you, your life stock goes from $1, $2, $300, $1,000. You might be the next Bitcoin all of a sudden. And they like, man, I remember Corey was back there. Like he was old knucklehead back here. And I didn't think he was gonna get it together. All of a sudden, you're a completely different person as far as drive and success and mindset and all that stuff, simply because people decided to pour right back into you. So that's my first question, Tyra. So what's your thoughts on equating the life principle to, if we just got together, your community pours right back into you? How do you think that grows your stock? Or like from your perspective, how does that create your life stock to be a bit on a better platform?
So fabulous, because that goes back into your network. If you join a community of like-minded individuals all going to the same or similar destination, and when we're talking about destination, we're just talking about the destination of success. Now, what success looks like for you and for your circle is going to be different from what it looks like for me and for my circle. And there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, we're talking about holistic success too: life, wealth, health, fitness, family, spiritual, all of that. Now, when you get around a bunch of people that tell you, hey, you should pour, or we think that you might want to consider pouring into this, reading this, learning this, joining this, and we all hold each other accountable, then that stock in your life rises. Now your life is going to another level because your brain now is expanding because of exposure. My wife and I were talking this evening, Corey, and I asked her a question because I was watching. You seen Shot Caller? It's on Netflix. So Shot Caller is about a guy. It's about a guy who he was a business. I think he actually worked. May he wasn't stocks, but he worked somewhere on Wall Street, somewhere like that. And they called him. He was the money man, and successful business guy, white guy. He went out. They were talking about a merger, and they had drinks with his best friend, his best friend's wife, and his wife. They went out and they had little drinks, and he was giving his friend a fist bump, was in the back seat, and he turned around and did it. And he ran a red light and got hit. And so when he got hit, his best friend died. It was in the back seat, car boom, died. He went to and he blew a .10 because they had been drinking. They were celebrating. He went to prison 18 months, but he had to do what he had to do because in the prison system, you got to do what you got to do to survive. And he got caught up in a group fight and ended up getting 9 more years, 8 more years, something like that. So as he ranked up with the white power group, he started going up. And I asked my wife, I said, for somebody like that, and I'm bringing this back, he had a great life. He made a mistake. And as those mistakes compiled, he ended up, at the end of the movie, he ended up getting life in prison, no parole. Should a person get that much time in jail and not be allowed to change? And then how do we get them to change it? And my wife was like, you know what? People coming from the projects or inner city, they need exposure. They need somebody to point them because you can't, because she said you need to have a spark to change. So when you get out of prison, you do something different with your life. Don't do the same thing, but you need that spark. And I was like, where do people get that spark from? Some people may naturally have it, but it's exposure which allows you to do something with it. So when you surround yourself with the right community, with the right people, when you expose yourself to new people, then you elevate your lifestyle, your self-style, your self-worth, your everything, because now I have more exposure. Corey, you and I met in Michigan last year around this time. Exposure. We went to the similar location to better our game at speaking. We were in the building with Eric Thomas, number one motivational speaker in the world. We were in the building with other speakers and coaches who were successful in their own right. And then that elevated our game. Then we clicked because like minds think alike. And from there we stayed in contact. And so now my self-stock has went up because of you, because of several other people that I met, individuals that I have met in that time, and my circle is entirely different. And now I'm exposed to hear somebody say, man, I made $50,000 off a speech. What? If you can do that, then I can do it. Before having that exposure, I wouldn't even have thought to put a price on nothing like that. So, of course, we hear about our rappers and our basketball players making millions, but there are other industries out there. So, if you're in a different industry, there are attorneys making 25 G's an hour. If you're an attorney, but you won't know how to do it unless you get around that person who already been there and can reach back and say, "Hey, look, these are the steps that you take."
Hey, look, when I say your exposure to, and I want to go back to the spark. You said, and I'm doing like this because I need a spark to come from my finger, right? When you said the spark, I did a video a while back. It was sometime last year, I can't remember. And I think the California fires were going, and it's not to knock anything that happened in California. It's catastrophic, right? But I said, what's more powerful, the flame or the spark?
That's good.
And so like the point was, you don't get the flame without the spark. Something has to create the spark. However, at the same time, without the right environment, the spark doesn't matter. And so what that means is when opportunity, right? When the work meets the opportunity, all of a sudden you got wildfire, right? When the grass is dry and you get the spark, wildfire. Like you can't do this in Portland where it's raining all day and then the spark hits and it's like pouring down rain. That's not gonna happen. Like you can't do you know what I'm saying? Like you can't do that in the rainforest and be like, oh, spark, it's humid right now, wildfire. Like
And
there has to be the dry grass. Go ahead.
to jump in right there, that's something else we talked about was opportunity. So if you have the spark, the opportunity, and the network or the exposure, that's where it happens. Because we had started talking about, okay, why is America lacking or lagging behind other countries in healthcare, in education, and in prison reform? Most other first world countries don't have life in prison. And even if they do have life, it's 25 years and you get out. But what we do have in America is opportunity, which is why everybody, I ain't gonna say everybody, which is why a lot of people immigrate here because we have what other countries don't. If you don't have, if you lose your job and you go out on the street, welfare, Section 8, other social projects, those are things that can help us along the way. You go to a nice Venezuela and you out on the street, you on your own. There is no government assistance. There is no universal health care. There are no other avenues for you to survive. So then you come here with nothing because if you can come to the US with nothing, I have at least opportunity to make it.
No, that's exactly the point. And so that brings me to my second point then. So so you get the spark, right? GameStop got the spark.
Yep.
started growing. AMC got the spark, started growing, and people started pouring back into them. Or again, community.
That
Somebody provided the spark,
yeah.
right? The second piece to this is, in response to the spark, someone is going to try to stop you.
Oh, that's good.
Before I even get into that, I want you to talk to me about that. I know there's probably times in your life, I know there's probably situations you've seen for other people, even with your wife, probably. Y'all have tried to do things. Y'all have probably tried to experience things. And because it was for the betterment of yourself, for y'all, for your friends, for whoever, something now tries to bump up against that and say, nope, I don't think you should do that.
Oh yeah. And not just people, situations. So we're talking about adversity now. And they say, if we wanted to be hyper religious, we could say the enemy gonna get you when you're trying to do the right thing. But in all seriousness, adversity is always there. But it seems like when you change your mindset, Corey, I honestly think adversity is always there. It's always around us. We're always in it. But when we're not trying to do nothing with our life, we just feed into the negativity, so adversity don't hurt as much because I'm negative like everybody else. I'm complaining like everybody else. I ain't the world against me. But when you change your mindset to try to do the right thing, you're trying to elevate, you're trying to grow, that's where adversity really starts to hit you because now I'm not complaining anymore. I'm just trying to do everything I can do to get further. And it seems like everything now is pulling me and holding me back. And now, people wise, that's when people start talking about, oh, you changed, man. You don't act the same. Why should I be the same? If we're constantly supposed to be evolving and growing and learning and maturing and getting better, I mean, you wouldn't want to if wine gets better with age, I wouldn't want my wine to be 30 days old forever. I want my wine to age. And so people, I think, and I don't think, they do it maliciously. I think that a lot of people don't want to be left behind, but they don't feel like they worthy or they don't deserve or can't follow you. So at that point they're asking why you do this or why you do that. And then for our older culture, especially our grandparents and our parents, man, I think that they were so locked in survival. That's all they knew was I need to do X, Y, and Z to survive. Their dreams were put on hold for survival. I think for our generation, especially the younger generation that's coming after us, they have an actual chance to thrive. They're not going to be just surviving. They have opportunity to dream again, to chase those dreams, and actually to reach the opportunity that everybody talks about. So, I think that as soon as you start, yeah, something's gonna punch you in the mouth. And a lot of times it's those people close to you because those are the people that you think are supposed to support you. But still, it's your dream, it's your vision, it's your life. You don't need no buy-in from nobody, not even your spouse. I mean, it's nice. It will help. But if you have a dream or a passion and your spouse doesn't understand that, it might be because you haven't proven it. Or it might be because you haven't shown that you're serious about it. So you got to get serious and you got to walk that thing out. And then make sure that you're not see, people love to say, well, my wife or my husband don't support me. That's because you built a lifestyle and now you want to throw it all away off of a dream that you ain't even got a plan for. It's like, okay, I put you up in this nice stuff. We got this way of life. I want to take it all away so I can go live my dream. And I'm gonna let you get in after this, but I was managing a property for a client. He was a police officer, got a job, stable. He quit, moved to be an actor, just out the blue. But then needed somebody to help him pay his property bills because he didn't have a check coming in. You should have planned that out. Okay, you want to
Sound
be
like a you problem.
great. Plan it. He just boom. I'm going to be an actor. Take it over.
Yeah, no, in my mind, I was like, that sound like a you problem. That sound like me. But so here's my thought. So just flat out, every time, and I have this, I remember specifically having this conversation with an individual. You could tell the neighborhood she come from. You could tell that she wasn't well versed. She wasn't articulate, but she was trying. And I I just wanted to give her a hug, Tyrus, and be like, it's gonna be all right. But the issue was her environment as she was trying. It is the perfect example I have for that. Her environment that she was in, the minute she tried to get better, that started bumping up against it. Nah, you can't do that. So she's doing the wrong stuff at work, coming in late because her environment was making her late. It didn't have nothing to do with her household. It had everything to do with who she had around her, right? The way that she was talking, the way that she was letting certain words fly at work. And I'm like, oh, we not that cool. Um, but that's the thing. Life will bump up against you and be like, nah, let me try to. For those of you who are religious, God's really going to test you to see if that's really what you want. Because when you try to do the right thing, all of a sudden bad things happen. And then you're sitting here saying, well, why me? I want you to figure out whether you have it or not. Now, you talked about wine earlier. So you said that, I don't want my 30-year wine to stay 30 years, right? I want it to age. So for those of you, I like whiskey, I like bourbon, and I like the scotch. It depends on what I'm drinking or the environment and what I'm eating with it. So when it comes to those three things, you can have different ages on it. Yeah. And I'm about to help somebody right here. So you sit down with that good old whiskey, that good old bourbon, some good old scotch, right? And it might be a 3-year, it might be a 7-year, 10-year, 15-year, 20-year. It depends on what it is. But here's how I'm going to help somebody, because they're going to be like, man, Corey, it's going to take so long for me to get to where I'm going. I've tasted 17-year scotches that was trash. I've tasted 3-year scotches that were great. I've tasted 5-year bourbons that were off the chain. I've tasted 10-year bourbon that I was like, ooh, this tastes like you looked the side of a wall. What I'm trying to tell you is that you don't have to equate the amount of time that you're doing something to how great you can be in it. Like initially, and I'm gonna walk you through the path. Like initially, when you put the alcohol in the barrel and you start to age it and all that stuff, probably gonna taste like trash because it's brand new. It's in the barrel. It's trying to consume the stuff that's coming from the side of it. But there's also this other process that's saying, and they call it an angel share, right? There's this other process that comes out and it's like taking some from it, right? It evaporates naturally. That's the piece of you that you got to let go and be all right with that. Be all right letting that little piece go, because what you're consuming from the side with the environment that you're currently in is going to create you the person that you really need to be. That's so good. Don't equate the amount of time that you're in something, that you've been doing it. That initial section is you're going to agitate it. It's going to be frustrating. It's going to be like, oh my God, is this for me? But after you get past a certain threshold, it don't matter if you've been doing it 2 years. It don't matter if you've been doing it 20 years. The person that's been doing it this long, that don't mean they're better than you. It doesn't mean that they're more successful than you. It just mean they've been at it longer than you. And so that's what that's the point I'm trying to drive home to y'all is once it bumps up against you, fight back on it. However, let the pieces go that don't need to be here no more. And then finally become what you need to be and realize that it doesn't matter age and time, right? You can be I'm talking about a spectacular person after 6 months of self-development versus someone who's been self-developing for 20 years. It just depends on how good or how intentional you are moving at it. That made me want to go get a drink right now, Tyrus, but I'm going to digress on the show. You know what I'm saying?
Hey, but that's really good because now you're diving into application. And if you are actually applying and being very intentional with it, it may not take you. Corey, I seen somebody post that, they say to be an expert in something take you roughly 10,000 hours. I seen somebody say, oh, I was actually able to do this in less than 10,000 hours. And it was a podcast and they were able to make $1 million in like their first year in business. If you're very intentional in something and very focused and dialed in and you make the one thing, it might not take you 10,000 hours. because then you are hyper focused on one thing, and you're not dividing your attention between 10 different things. See, people like to say I give 100%, but at how many things? And I was on a call this morning, accountability call, and one gentleman, he said, I'm not looking for balance anymore. Shout out to Clifton. I'm not looking for balance. I'm looking to focus 100% on the thing that I'm doing at the moment. So if I'm doing three different things, or if I have three different goals, I'm not doing 33, 33, and 33% and saying calling it I'm giving 100. I'm giving 100% on thing one. When I'm finished, I'm giving 100% on thing two. Then I'm going to thing three and giving 100%. And so as you're aging, it might not take you a whole lot of time. And if it is taking you a whole lot of time, then start to look at, okay, am I really focused and intentional? Or am I, oh man, I've been at this for 25 years and it just hasn't worked for me. Well, have you really been at it for 25 years, or have you been stopping and starting, stopping and starting, stopping and starting? I know so many entrepreneurs that have stopped and started the same business about 15 times. And then they never really just dived into it and made it that one thing.
Yeah, it's when I think about, and so just to bring this back to the stock market, right? You stop, start. There are individuals who buy, sell, buy, sell, buy, sell, instead of just letting it sit. Now, there are some stocks. Again, I'm not the financial guru to be talking to y'all about this. But what I can talk to you about is in your life, you keep stopping and starting. Same thing with Tyra said. You start your business. Stop, start. And then you keep saying, well, I'm not getting no traction on this. It's because for a week, you gave your focus to this. For the next week, you gave your focus to that. And for the next week, you gave your focus to this. And I was about to say, while you were talking about the giving 100% and you give it to one thing at a time, I said that a lot of these individuals are like, man, I give 100% to how many things? 10. Right. So you get 10%
Yep.
to each thing. Because that's in reality, that's what it really is. You will find it's an anomaly. I'm gonna use my SAT word here.
Uh-oh.
It's an anomaly when you see someone doing like 7 different things and they are just full speed ahead at it. And to be quite honest with you, I don't know if I've grown to be that type of person yet. It takes a heck of a person to be able to give laser focus to all these things at once and still execute at 100%. And really, I should say 120%.
Hey, and when we're talking about going back to the attributes assessment, if a person is doing that and they're doing it at a high level, they're probably very high in their systems judgment and practical thinking. Those attributes, which allows them to bring in a lot of information, which allows them to soak that up and then apply. So if you're not, there's nothing wrong with that. There are just certain gifts and talents that some people have and they're able to do it. And so that goes back to Corey. We talked about this before. Don't pattern yourself after somebody else, what they do. Pattern your process. Figure out what the process is to do something and see if you can do that, because each person's gifting is something different. My gift may not be to play basketball like LeBron James. So if I'm going to say, okay, I'm gonna be LeBron, I might be sadly shocked when I wake up and I'm like, hey, I ain't shooting them threes and going to the hole. Now, can I learn basketball fundamentals and perform and hold a role? Sure. But will I ever be him? No, because he has a specific talent that he has that I don't. So don't mirror yourself after somebody else based on their talents. Try to figure out what their process is and then map your process out after that. And I got some more stuff on the stock market, but go ahead to your next
No. And the last thing I'm gonna put on there, and then we can get into this next principle here is, or if you want to get into what you was about to say is, similar to what Tyra said. I always tell people, don't look at what the outcome was, look at how you got there. And so that's whether it's in your job, whether it's in your personal life, whatever it is. Like let's say you got a promotion from your job. What did you do to get that promotion? You didn't just say, well, I woke up every day, I existed, I went to work, boom, promotion. That didn't happen. You probably woke up every day, but you probably exhibited a certain amount of behaviors or talents. And that's something that I've been on a lot lately too, is we need to stop and again, let's go back stock market with Reddit and all that stuff. Stop celebrating the outcome or the metric, the number, whatever it is, and start celebrating the behavior. So GameStop, AMC, the behavior was these people came in and said, hey, let's everybody collectively get into it. Right? The behavior said that, look, if we all just band together, this is what's going to happen to the stock. At your job, the behavior is that you gave 120% to whatever it is. You killed the numbers. The promotion came up. You killed the interview. You got the promotion. The behavior, and I asked, I was on one of my mentor calls the other day, Tyrus. You might like this. I said, so we go to work and we measure ourselves in these metrics. But I said the things that I personally believe is that everything, and I'm gonna shoot it to you this way. I do believe anything worth mentioning is worth measuring. The second part, though, is a lot of times the most important things in life cannot be measured. So it's almost an oxymoron.
Yeah.
However, what I mean by that is, and I'm just going to use relationships here. And a matter of fact, I'm going to try to walk you through this, Tyrus. How do you know if your wife loves you?
Man, other than, as they say, you got to walk the walk. The only way you really know is if they're walking the walk. And to me, the way you know if someone loves you is once they start to self-sacrifice for you.
True. But
I
can you measure it?
I can't put no measurement on it.
Can't measure. We can't be like, well, shoot, my wife is on 10 a day. My wife is at our love is at a 5 currently, but if I do these things, our love will be on a 10. Now, yes, there's some things you can do, speak our love language and all that stuff. That way you can fill that love tank up, so to speak. But here's the point I'm getting is that it just in life in general, and a lot of times I see this when I'm dealing with teams or individuals and whatnot. How do you measure how this person feels about you, right? And I use the wife for an example. So we say the most important thing to me is seeing my wife happy. But how do you measure it? You can't.
Right.
And so the thing is, you have to measure behaviors. You got to go in every day and say, well, I know she hates washing the dishes or she had a long day, so I'll wash the dishes for her. I know we had a pile of laundry, piling up. So I did the laundry for her. I thought, I felt like she may need a pick-me-up today. So I shot her a text message today because I'm at work, and I just told her how much I love her, and that I thought she looked beautiful this morning and whatnot. Made her smile at work. But you can't measure it. You can't say, well, if I just send 5 text messages a week, if I do the laundry at least twice and then I wash the dishes once, that will get me to this particular metric, the wife metric. Yeah. And then I'm good. That's not how that happens. So we have to get to the point to where we start to measure the behavior, or we start to pay attention to the behavior because we can't measure it. So thinking about that, I guess you could say, and I'm gonna kick it back over to you. I think that a lot of things that we try to measure are just these, I guess, fluff numbers that will kind of give us a certain outcome. But at the same time, and we can talk about stock market with this too, at the same time, the most important things in life cannot be measured.
Yeah, I agree with you on that, because the only thing you can do is set up a place that you want to be. But like you said, you have to start to pattern the behavior and figure out, am I doing what's necessary to get to that level of happiness? And happiness is just a feeling, it's a contentment. It's a, how do I feel at this moment? But there's no happy meter. You can put an arbitrary number on it, but what does that really mean? And dialing back to the stock market, it's a lot of things that you can't measure in there. You can see the numbers go up and down, but you can't measure intent. You can't measure what people are thinking. You could try. You could try to figure it out, but like I've seen posts where people say, "Man, nobody knows what's going to happen. Here's what we can think about over time based on precedent, but to be sure, there's nobody that's sure." And just to throw this back out there, when we were talking about things jumping up against you, and you might go into this principle, but when people were talking about AMC, they were talking about the Dogecoin or Dog Coin or whatever they called it. When they were talking about GameStop, Then other people like, what's next? They were already trying to figure out the NIOs. The should I go back to Tesla? Should I go? What's the next stop? And the people that were on the red, they were like, stay focused on AMC and GameStop. Stop getting focused on other stuff. You're gonna mess this up. And I think that people start to mess their own selves up when they start getting excited about something and trying to move too quickly in the next direction. And so lack of focus can come up against you in your life because this might be working for you. You might be winning in your job. That don't mean you need to go out and start a business. You need to plan that. You need to walk that out. And like Corey said, doing 7, 8 things at one time, you need to see one thing through first. And that's a conversation me and Corey had offline about, are we doing too much? Are there too many things that we're trying to do when we haven't seen the first thing through all the way? And what those guys on Reddit are talking about with GameStop and AMC is see it all the way through. Not even that the venture capitalists and the big money is coming back and saying, hey, they doing something wrong. You need to stop them. Not even the external. It's the internal of, I'm on GameStop, I'm on AMC. What else can I get now to try to make the most money? Because I want to make it fast. So nothing in your life happens that's going to be great or successful fast. You got to walk it through and you got to stay focused. And you got to, like Corey said, measure the behavior, watch the behaviors, chase the pattern, watch the pattern, look at what's precedent. When you go to law school, you ain't doing nothing but reading a bunch of past cases that set precedent for how future occurrences are going to work out. You can't measure it. You can't measure, well, I'm going to win X amount of cases based on this, but you can say I have a high likelihood of doing better in this area because I'm doing this process and I'm going or measuring this behavior, and that's what I can actually see.
Yeah, and watch, check this. I'm about to help somebody out here, Tyrus. So I want to paint a picture for you of there's 3 mice and they get dropped into this maze, right? So they get put in the maze on certain little areas that have cheese or whatnot, and there's a certain amount of it. One mouse goes through, eats all the cheese. Like he's like, boom, got the cheese. Moves to the next one, got the cheese, got the cheese, got the cheese. And I believe they were supposed to be in there for 30 days or something like that. So he goes through, boom, gets the cheese, get the cheese, get the cheese. And then all of a sudden he's going through the maze and he's like, ain't no more cheese. And so this was on like day 3, finished all the cheese. He had to go like 27 more days, 24 more days. I mean, 28 more days, right? How many days? The mouse dies inside. Because he done ate all the cheese because he was like, it's unlimited. I got this. Cool. I'm going here. I'm going here. I'm going here. They dropped another mouse in there. Mouse went in there. He found 1 piece of cheese and he was like, cool, I'm good. Stayed there, ate the cheese up, spent whole 30 days there, looked at the cheese. After probably day 10, he was like, I'm out of cheese. But he just kept every single day, just kept staying in that spot. Like, where the rest of the cheese at? Can you give me the cheese? Boom. 30 days go by. That mouse ends up dying. Put the 3rd mouse in there. 3rd mouse goes in there, goes to 1 cheese, sits there for about 5 days, goes to the next piece cheese, sits there for about another 5 days, keeps doing this until the 30 days pass. Mouse survives and gets on up out of there, healthy as can be. That's the 3 different types of people that we were just talking about, though, Tyrus. Like you get the stock, and then you're like, okay, so what's next? And then you want to eat up and you want to get greedy, right? And then, then you move on to the next thing. And it's like that shiny object syndrome. But then you get the next individual that's just like, and a lot of you, this is going to hurt. I'm going to say this right now. A lot of you, this is you and your job right now. So you go to your job, you go there, and you say, I get my paycheck. And then you say, man, but I just can't quite pay my bills. And then you go back to that job and you say, man, I need my paycheck. And then you're like, man, I'm about to be homeless because I can't really pay my bills with this. And then you go back to that job and then you say, man, I need my paycheck. And then all of a sudden you find yourself in a situation that's highly unfavorable to yourself because you keep going back to that thing, expecting that they're going to give you more. Like you keep going back, simply expecting that they're just going to throw more stuff at you.
Mm-hmm.
that you're not exhibiting the habits to say, I'm going to go find this other stuff to maybe supplement what I need. And then some of us are, and I'm going to say us because I feel like I'm in that category. I feel like we're both in that category. Some of us listening right now are the third mouse, and they go to one platform and say, all right, cool, chill out here for a little while, get, understand the climate. And then I'm gonna go to the next thing. Cool, I'm in it. I've got what I needed from here. I pace myself. I'm good. And then we move on to the next thing and say, all right, cool, I'm good. And then we make it our 30 days because we mapped it out. We didn't get greedy. We didn't get so lackadaisical where we just said, well, I'm just gonna show up here every day and life is just gonna give me what I need. Right? There's a lot of people out there that's just like, yeah, it's just life. It's just gonna happen. I won't be homeless because sure, life or whatever. But understand that those three types of individuals are just the three types of people that exist in this world. So you have to figure out which point are you, like which one are you? And so to his point where he talked about Dogecoin, I think is it dog coin? Because I saw somebody put a dog on the coin one time.
Dog coin.
Is it dog coin? I'm gonna just start calling it dog coin. So you got the dog coin, and then you got AMC, you got GameStop, and instead of people just saying, I'm sitting in here and I'm consuming what I have and I'm taking what I have, and it's gonna bring me to my next point, Tyrus. I'm in the moment right now doing what I need to do. And then, hey guys, on Reddit, let's go and plan our next move. That way, when we invest in the next stock, we get the same type of return on it. Maybe even more because now we can do it better because we've done it already. So this brings me to my next point. And this is quite a conversation I've had this week with a lot of individuals. Of course, with cryptocurrency, it goes up and down all day, right? All day. The stock market at some point in time, it closes, depending on the stock that you have, and it's not moving from there. And so I had a conversation with a lot of people, and they're like, oh my God, did you see that it dropped to 2 cents? Oh man, did you see? Man, it's up to 7 cents. Like, oh man, it's 8 cents right now. And then it was, oh man, it's 4 cents right now. And that's a lot of y'all lives right now. And so for those of you listening to this, a lot of you are, and catch the principle behind this, because just like in the stock market, your life does the same thing, right? Like it doesn't get cut off. It's more like cryptocurrency, really. It doesn't cut off at a certain point, and then you're like, well, my life can't get any worse right now, so I guess I'll just chill. No, you're either getting better or you're lessening the betterment. The reason saying is because someone else is getting better, so now you look like you're not but you're now worse than what you were before because other people are getting better at it. I think Mark Cuban said this on a different podcast. He said there's some 15-year-old kid that's trying to kick my behind right now, so I always got to keep learning. Right? There's some 15-year-old kid that's trying to take your job. Right? I don't care if you're at McDonald's or you the CEO of Shell or BP. I don't care who you are. There is somebody that's coming for that. Now, is it with malicious intent? Not necessarily, but they feel like I have a seat at the table now, that they want the lifestyle that they want. And there's nothing wrong with that. But understand that your life is just like the stock market, and you can't panic every time it drops down. You can't, oh my God, I'm riding high and I'm on this high horse right now because we're 7 cents a share now and you got in for less than a cent. Like, and you're just euphoric right now. That's my other SAT word for the day. You're just euphoric right now. And you're like, oh my God, life is great. And then you have these ebbs and flows in life that it's a roller coaster of emotion. You're like, oh my God, it's just tragic right now. Oh, yay, it's great right now. So talk to me about that, Tyrus. What do you think about that principle? Because I'm sure you've had conversations with individuals and they're just like, even not even thinking about the stock market. They're just like, oh my God, life is great right now because I just made my first $100. And then all of a sudden you're down and you're like, oh my God, woe is me. Life is so terrible because I didn't do anything this week or something.
What happens when you put a ship in the middle of the ocean and you don't put a captain on there?
Guess it just sit there, huh?
And there's no anchor.
Oh, the water gonna take it where it want to go.
So that's what most people's life is. They haven't strategically mapped out or planned or visualized where they want to be. And so since they're not following the plan, their life plan, they're just up and down. and life is controlling them. Life is doing to them. Life happened to me. That's what they say. Oh, this happened to me. That happened to me. Life just happening to me. That's because you're not happening to life. You're not structured in a systematic process of trying to get to where you want to be. So your life ebbs and flows. A person who has their destination set, they're the captain of the ship. Their anchor has been pulled up and they're going to the Bahamas. They know exactly where they're going. They may or may not know how long it's going to take them to get there, depending on your dream or your goal, but you know where the destination is. And so when you are focused, when you are dialed in, when you are intentional, life doesn't just up and down. This, oh man, what happens is when things do come against you, you still push through and you say, you know what, that was a little bit of challenge right there. That was a little bit of a setback, but I still know where I'm going. And since I am dedicated and disciplined, it won't take me high and it won't take me low. And so going and just equating that to the stock market, true investors know what they need to hold for long term and they know what they can put their money in to play with because that's what they're doing. People who have money have a set amount that, hey, if I put 20 grand on GameStop and it blow up, I make me a million. But I'm also comfortable with, hey, if GameStop go to zero and I lose my 20 grand, it's a part of the game. So do you know the game? And are you to my homie out there, trust the process and know the game. Do you know the game and do you trust your process? And for people who can't answer yes to both of those questions, that's where you get the highs and the lows. Life is great when everything working for them. Life sucks when everything goes against them because they're just living somebody else's design and dream. They live in their boss's dream. They're living McDonald's dream. They're living the delivery guy deliver my UPS package on time dream. They live in all of that. They're living everybody else's life and they don't even realize it. Jerome said, if you don't design your life, you're going to live by somebody else's design for your life. And you may not even know that. So if you're listening, sit down and think about where you're going in life. Are you even aware of where you're going and what you want and how you're going to get there? And if you can say, yeah, I know where I want to be. I want to be the best street sweeper in the world. Do you have a plan to get you there and a process to stick to? And so, in order to stop that high and low, stop that excitement and anxiousness and that misery, because that's what that is. Most of the people that's like that, they sad. They hurting all the time. Like they don't know what's around the next corner. If you plan and you stay disciplined to your plan and your process, you're gonna be steady, even kill. Not to say you won't have some days that are better than or worse than others, but you're not gonna be super high or super low.
Yeah, and you know what's funny is you say that. I've been watching this little show, Forged in the Fire or something like that. And I don't know if you've seen it, but they make like swords and weapons and stuff like that. And it's like this competition. They start out with like 4 guys, and then they got to make a knife, and then they move on down there. And so what happens a lot of times is, and you talked about how life just kind of takes you. The reason why life will just kind of take you wherever is because you don't know where you're going. You can't. 7% of people can actually self-assess themselves accurately. The rest of the people, it's not a knock on you, but you need somebody to help self-assess you. You need somebody to help steer you down the right path. And that's okay. I'm gonna just plug it here, man. Y'all join the community and you know what I'm saying? Like you have at least 3 coaches in there that's just gonna be like, yo, you're either walking the right path or you're not walking the right path. These are some things you can change, right? You got other individuals in there, been there, seen that, done that. Like they can help you measure yourself. But here's my point. So there's a lot of times where they'll make the knife or they'll make the sword or whatever the thing is, and they call it quenching. So they get it really hot. In your life, you got to get real hot, and then you have to harden yourself. So they dump it in the oil, they put it in the oil, and it becomes hard. That means it can be swung, hit, whatever the object that they're testing it against, right? So in your life, you got to get really hot, right? And then you got to quench it. But here's the thing. How do you know if you're on the right path? Because you can get really hot and go rob a bank and then you sitting up in jail. You can get really hot and then go, you know what I'm saying? You could be hanging around the wrong people, do something really hot and then quench yourself and you down the wrong path. But how do you truly know that you've done it right? And so when the judges, a lot of times when they look at it, the guys are looking at it and they're like, oh man, I just, I think I got it hot enough. I'm trying to see if there's any warps or bends in it. And they're looking at it and they're like, yeah, it looks straight to me. And then they get to the judges and they're like, this thing mighty crooked. And so the thing is, who do you have in your life not to just sway you like the boat or the ship? Who do you have not to just be like, well, I'm looking at it myself, I think it's pretty straight. And then you get to somebody else and they be like, man, this thing crooked as all get out. Who do you have in your life to be able to do that? Right. And I was just watching that show and I was like, man, that's a good principle behind that, because there's a lot of guys that walk up there and say, man, I think I made this pretty good knife. I made this pretty good weapon. Then they get up there and they're like, man, this thing crooked. Oh, matter of fact, you got a whole crack running down the side of this. So no, it's not correct. And meanwhile, you're sitting here thinking in your life that you're like, man, I'm on the right path. I'm doing the right thing. I've created the right product of myself. And then other people look at you and be like, yeah, that's not it, bro. So it was funny you said that, because had those people not had judges, they would just be sitting there just being like, yeah, it's straight, sure, whatever. Oh yeah, there's no cracks in that. It looks good to me. And there's no one to actually help measure kind of what they're doing.
Yeah, and I like that principle. And to add another instance to that is Hell's Kitchen. If you ever watch Hell's Kitchen, you got all these professional chefs. They're chefs already. They cook something. Gordon Ramsay gives them a menu. They bring it up. Even some of them look at each other's food, but when they bring it up to him, he's like, "Hold up, this raw. How are you a trained chef and you cooking raw meat?" So having that coach, that person that's holding you accountable, and I want to put this out there, to a higher standard. A lot of people got accountability partners with people who ain't taking them nowhere. People who are, if you're the smartest person in the room, you're in the wrong group. This isn't an ego thing. This is a growth thing. If you're the smartest person in your circle, stay in that circle because you helping, but you need to find another circle too where you at the bottom, because you still need to grow. That's why Damon John said, you know what? Who I look up to is Mark Cuban, because I'm a multimillionaire. He a multi-billionaire. It's another level. And you want to keep rising in those levels. When you are executive chef, line cook, sous chef, whatever you want to call them, you're at one level. When you go to Gordon Ramsay, that's another level. Whole different level of experience, taste bud, palate, know what he wants. He turns what they have and be like, that's trash. And you thought you knocked it out, because they used to start that show with my signature dish. What your best thing that you bring to the table? He like, Then it's like, okay, so I ain't that hot then. Who do you have in your circle that can hold you accountable, that's on the next level, that's going to that next level, that's a little bit further along than you? Because if you got yourself surrounded by the people that's doing the same thing you doing, and all of y'all just doing it together, where you gonna go? And who is that true accountability? I feel like let's call it what it is. It's not accountability, it's enablement. I'm gonna enable you to stay right in the same spot you in, because I'm not going nowhere, and we can both be here together and complain together and then say the world is against us.
You need that measurement. You need that. And there's so many things that I'm thinking about as you're saying that. There's so many instances of this in different areas. For those of you who don't know, I used to work with a lot of attorneys at one point. And I remember one attorney was telling me, he said, Corey, always remember that every attorney is an attorney. Every attorney is not a litigator. And I was like, that makes zero sense to me. Until I realized, I was like, not every attorney knows how to go to court.
Facts.
And they will outsource that boy in a heartbeat.
Huge.
Because when you are in court, it's a different game. Can you put the show on? Do you actually know what's admissible? Do you know how to question somebody? Do you know how to cross-examine somebody? Do you know what's the right questions to ask? But we, as a general population, to be honest with you, we probably see, oh man, they went to law school, they're an attorney. Oh man, they must know their stuff. But then you reach the next level and you say that cat would get ate up in court.
Facts. You ain't giving up on the truth, though. That there are levels to that. there are your bottom rung attorneys. They went to law school, true, but I bet you go ask somebody like R- Ray Lewis, what attorney you want? I want this
Right.
attorney. What attorney T.I. want that kept him out of jail a couple times, got him out.
Mm-hmm.
There are attorneys out there that are just they master litigators. That's what they do. And when I was getting documents prepared for business, the question that my mentor told me to ask was, don't just get an attorney that's going to prepare the documents. Ask them will they defend it in court, because if they won't even do that, you don't need to work with them. And so that brings back into who is in your circle that can tell you the right things, because because it all come down to money. And it was the same thing with me. Who can I get look at this document for the cheapest price? Oh, this attorney say he'll do it for 150. He'll
He
review
ain't
it.
gonna defend it though.
He might not even, you go to court, the attorney won't even be there, won't even defend you. So that goes to, okay, let me pay a little bit more up front for that attorney that will go and say, you know what, I put my name on this, I'm gonna defend it. And without my mentor, I wouldn't have known that. And that's the lessons learned that you get from accountability, from coaching, from mentors, from people that you surround yourself with that have been in the situation or in the game that you want to be in.
Man, it's man, I could go on for days about this. Speaking of that, like even running, um, I met a guy one time. He said, "Man, I run marathons," and he said, "I don't do the with the 3K, the 5K, or whatever." He said he does whatever when it's like miles on miles. And he said, "The way that you train," he said, "and check this out. This is how you break it down." And I want to preach efficiency at this point, because when you have someone that can lead you down the right path, and I know we kind of off topic, but this is good. Y'all need to hear this. Y'all need to hear this. When you have somebody that can lead you down the right path, you know how to efficiently get that done too. And so the reason I say that is, so this individual said, he said, when I first started running, he was like, man, I was running like three times a week. He said, when I started running though, when I really started training, he said, I ran 5 days a week. And then he said, you know what? I felt like I was getting pretty good. So then he said, man, I started running 7 days a week. And then he was like, man, it's too much. Then he started running 6 days a week. And then he said that was the sweet spot. He said, if you run 6 days a week, you're going to get the maximum amount. He said, I found when I ran 7 days a week, I didn't get no better than when I ran 6 days a week. Like someone's been through this. So now I'm not about to go run no marathon. I'm going to just be honest with you. I am not one of them. Whenever I do have a family, we're not going to have that family that's like, oh, Christmas 12K. I'm not even sure 12K is a thing. But yeah, we gotta go run a 5K on Christmas. Oh no, buddy, that's not about to happen. But if I ever did need to start running like that, I know 6 days. That's what I need to do for the running, right? Like even the fitness industry, and this is something that we both know, right? The fitness, everybody knows at bare minimum, if you reduce your calories, you're gonna lose weight. But for some reason, the fitness industry is $1 billion industry, and people like you can go on Google and get the exercises. You don't need nobody to tell you that, but you need somebody to hold you accountable. You need somebody to show you right from wrong. You need somebody to say, yes, this is the most efficient way to do it. And yeah, I can't preach enough about how really all of these principles that we talked about, even tying it into this last one, and even the side topic that we had of find the person that will keep you straight, that you're not just going to be ebbing and flowing. Because, and bringing it back to the stock market, had people not started to speak up to say, you know what, this GameStop thing is something, this AMC thing is something, had people went and thrown their money in it, you could have easily lost it. So yeah, that's the biggest thing for me.
And even with that, those guys that are in that Reddit group, one of them is a financial advisor. And so you don't have, I think when people look at Reddit, they think, oh, it's just somewhere that people just talking to be talking. It's some professionals in there. There's some people that know their stuff, and it's just another platform that people use to disseminate information. And so there are mentors in there. I mean, nobody's paying them, and they're not taking you one on one. But watch what they're saying, study what they're saying. Now we're talking going back to the other principle. Don't look at the outcome, look at the process. Study what they're saying. Don't just take it and do it. Actually look at what those guys are saying and then go back and look at the research and the history behind it. And be like, okay, that makes sense. Now I see why it happened the way it did. And so, recapping before we get off of here, just the principles of the stock market. People jumped into something, they weren't really sure. You have people that are very excited. You're gonna have people that's real sad because when that thing implode, and it will at some point, they're gonna be lost. And then they'll be like, the world did it to me. And so make sure that you have everything locked in, planned out, strategy wise, understanding where you go, where you're going, what your vision is, how do you get there, taking ownership, designing your path, surrounding yourself with the right community, with the right people, then getting the right accountability partner or coach, and making sure that it's a person that can stretch you and help you grow, and not just a person that enables you. Corey, any last words before we wrap this thing up?
Nah, I would say, man, really, really, the thing that stuck out to me today is, man, just pay attention to the process, man. Observe the behaviors of how you got there versus what the outcome you want is, and you will be perfectly fine. Everything summed up of what we talked about today. Look at the behavior of what happened, and then you will figure out how the outcome came about. Apply the same thing to your life.
No, that's good. That's deep. That ain't deep, but that's deep. See, people, did I say you the thing with the that prophet, so-called prophet on there look like Cam Newton?
Nah, I don't think you did.
That mess. That's a mess. But he a false prophet, basically. Walk around lying to folks.
Oh
Got
Lord.
he on, got his hat on. But what was funny to me about the deep thing was he got this guy with him, sitting beside him, and everything he say, he tried to make it sound so smooth and so deep.
Yeah.
And then the guy was be on the side, he was like, yeah, ooh.
Mm-hmm.
And some people try to sound deep for the sake of sounding deep, but when you say something that's real deep, it don't even sound deep.
Yeah.
You got to go back behind it and get the principle. You got to be able to catch it. And that's why when Jesus was speaking of parables, I mean, it was simple stuff that he was talking about, but it was deep.
Yep.
And they had to go back and get it. And if you understand, you will understand. If not, you might need to level your game up and get around some different people who can snatch that principle out for you, because that was deep what you said, but it wasn't that deep.
Here's what I'm gonna say to that though, Tyrus. And it's I'm gonna give y'all one tip that y'all can take with your life. If there's anything that you didn't get from this podcast, realize if it sound deep, it ain't deep. That means they don't know what they're talking about. Because if it's really deep to that person, then they're gonna break it down in a way that sounds really simple because they don't care about it that much.
Think about it. Hey, put that like they used to say, put that in your pipe and smoke it. Keep that on your minds. Well, guys, we're getting out of here. We want to just thank you all for joining us for another episode of the Empowerment Platform, where our mission is to empower you to reach your goals, whatever they may be. And if you plan on dumping some money in the stock market, please have a plan. And please don't be mad if you lose it. Not gonna say you're gonna lose your money, but if you do, make sure it ain't your light bill money, your rent money, your cable money, your car payment money, your daycare money. Do some play money in there and see how it worked for you, especially if you're brand new to it. And I'll shout out my man Wall Street Trapper. If you interested in getting in the stock market, you want some basic application, basic knowledge, look up Wall Street Trapper. He'll get you in there on investing. He don't do a whole lot with options and all that stuff because he a long-term simple investor. So check him out. Check him out. Check out Earn Your Leisure. They talk about the stock market a good on their stock market Mondays. So those are some resources that you can use if the stock market is your game. All right, we'll catch you next week.